Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into something today that is, well, it can make or break a song. Vocals.
Yeah.
Vocals, you know?
Yeah.
That element that can turn a good track into a totally unforgettable one.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a musician laying down your own tracks or just fascinated by the magic behind audio production,
Right.
getting those vocals right, well, it's a game changer.
For sure.
And guess what? Today we're focusing on free tools that can help you do just that.
It's really amazing how accessible high-quality vocal production has become,
Right.
You don't need a fancy studio or those super expensive plugins to make vocals really shine these days.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about today. We've got this fantastic article from the LANDR Blog. It's called 18 Free Vocal VST Plugins for Mixing Perfect Vocals with the 2024 update.
Nice.
And it's basically a treasure map to a vault of free plugins. We're talking about those digital tools that can transform vocals in ways you wouldn't believe.
What's fascinating is that these aren't just like toy versions,
Right.
A lot of these free plugins are just as powerful as their paid counterparts.
Wow.
And some are even used by, professional producers.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the article breaks these plugins down into 8 categories.
Oh.
And I have to admit, the first one always makes me a little curious. Vocal tuning plugins.
Yeah.
Some people, when they hear tuning, they think, oh, isn't that cheating?
Right.
But I think it's more nuanced than that.
Absolutely. Tuning plugins can be used for like really subtle corrections that even the best singers sometimes need. Just those tiny little imperfections that the human ear might not even pick up on.
Yeah.
But can make a huge difference in the overall polish of a recording.
Right. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, right?
Totally.
The T-pain effect.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about this one. Is that something that's like actually still used in modern productions, or is it more of a novelty these days?
While that extreme, T-pain sound might be more associated with a specific era,
Yeah.
the techniques it popularized, like formant shifting and extreme pitch correction, are still used creatively in various genres today.
Oh, wow.
It's all about finding the right balance and using it tastefully.
Makes sense. So the article highlights Auburn Sounds Grail as a good starting point for free tuning plugins. It's got pitch shifting, correction, and even some vocal transformation features.
Yeah. Greyland is a really solid choice, especially for beginners. But for those who crave a little more control over the finer details of pitch correction,
Yeah.
I would recommend checking out Meldum Auto Pitch.
Okay.
It's got a very straightforward interface,
Okay.
but it allows you to fine-tune every aspect of the tuning process.
That's a great tip. Just moving on from tuning, the next category is all about shaping the tone of the vocals, vocal EQ plugins.
Yeah. Think of EQ as like a sculptor's chisel,
Ooh, okay.
allowing you to shape the frequencies, remove any kind of unwanted muddiness, and really bring out the brilliance in a vocal performance. It's amazing how much clarity and presence you can achieve with, well-applied EQ.
Yeah, and it seems like the pros don't just use one EQ.
Right.
They stack them up.
Yes.
The article mentioned using multiple EQs in a chain, each with a very specific purpose. Why is that?
It's a bit like using different tools for different tasks.
Okay.
You might use like a surgical EQ, like TDR Nova, to precisely target and remove problem frequencies.
Gotcha.
Like, maybe there's like a resonant boom in the lower range. And then you might follow that with like a character EQ, like Ignite Amps P-Tech X, which is modeled after, a vintage analog EQ.
Wow.
To add warmth and color to the vocals.
So it's not just about fixing problems, it's also about adding like personality and vibe.
Exactly.
Cool. And the article even had a hot tip about EQ placement.
Okay.
They recommend putting those character EQs, like the P-Tech X, after any dynamics processing, like compression.
Yes.
Okay, why is that order important?
Well, because compression can change the frequency balance of a signal.
Oh, okay.
So by applying the character EQ afterwards, you're shaping the sound after those dynamic changes have happened.
Okay.
Which ensures that you're hearing the full effect of the compressor before you further sculpt the tone.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk about compression.
Sure.
Which can be a bit of a head scratcher.
Oh, yeah.
For those new to audio production.
Totally. What is it?
So it's one of those effects that you don't always notice directly.
Okay.
But you definitely feel its absence when it's not there.
Interesting.
In simple terms, compression evens out the dynamic range, making the quieter parts louder and the louder parts a bit softer.
Okay.
It helps vocals sit more consistently in the mix and gives them more impact.
So it's like having a gentle hand on the volume knob, constantly adjusting.
To keep things balanced.
Exactly.
The article highlights 2 free compressor plugins that emulate classic hardware, Analog Obsession Fetish and LALA.
Yes. Those are modeled after the legendary 1176 and LA2A compressors, respectively. And these are the kind of tools that have been used on countless hit records.
Wow.
Even just using these plugins can give you a little taste of that vintage magic.
I'm hearing legendary a lot.
Yeah.
What's so special about these particular compressors? Why are they so revered?
They're renowned for their unique sonic characteristics.
Okay.
The 1176, which Fetish emulates, is known for its fast, aggressive attack and its punchy sound.
Gotcha.
And it contains even the most dynamic vocals,
Wow.
making them sound powerful and present.
So it's like a vocal bodybuilder, like
Yes.
adding definition and strength.
Exactly.
Oh.
On the other hand, the LA2A, which LA emulates,
Okay.
is known for its smooth, transparent compression. It's often used to add warmth and subtle presence to vocals without squashing their natural dynamics.
That's interesting. And the article mentioned using these 2 compressions together,
Yeah.
one after the other. Why would you do that?
That's called serial compression,
Okay.
and it's a way to get the best of both worlds.
Ooh, okay.
The Fetish can tame those initial peaks and transients, and then the LA can smooth out the overall dynamics, adding a touch of warmth and glue.
Oh, okay. It's like a dynamic
Yeah.
duo of
Yeah.
compression, each playing a very specific role to achieve that polished and professional sound.
Exactly.
Okay, up next is a category that might seem counterintuitive, vocal saturation plugins.
Yeah.
Why would you want to add distortion to vocals?
It's not about making the vocals sound distorted
Okay.
in like a
Right.
harsh way.
Gotcha.
Saturation, when used subtly, adds warmth, presence,
Okay.
and just a bit of grit that can make vocals cut through a mix.
So it's like adding a subtle layer of spice?
Yeah.
Almost like adding like a touch of overdrive to a guitar.
Exactly.
The article suggests Klanghelm IVGI as a solid free option for this.
IVGI is a fantastic plugin. And what's really cool is that it's like a single mode version of their paid saturator. You're basically getting a taste of high-end saturation
Wow.
for free.
Nice.
It allows you to dial in just the right amount of harmonic distortion to bring out the character and texture in a vocal.
And for those who love simplicity,
Oh, yeah.
there's the soft tube saturation knob,
Yes.
one knob,
One knob.
endless possibilities. But the article also mentions a hot tip about using saturation on a bus. What's a bus, and why would you do that?
A bus or submix allows you to group multiple tracks together
Okay.
and apply processing to the entire group.
Gotcha.
So by applying saturation to like a vocal bus, you can subtly enhance the overall sound of the vocals without overdoing it on individual tracks.
Okay.
It helps glue the different vocal elements together and create more cohesive sound.
That's clever.
Yeah.
It's like adding a subtle layer of warmth and cohesion to the entire vocal performance.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about a problem that I think every vocalist has encountered at some point. Those harsh S sounds, also known as sibilants.
Right.
That's where de-esser plugins come in, right?
Absolutely. Sibilants can be a real distraction in a recording.
Yeah.
And a de-esser is like, a magic eraser
Okay.
that targets those harsh frequencies without affecting the rest of the vocal performance.
It's amazing how these plugins can target such specific sounds. The article recommends Techovation TD-esser as a free option. What makes this one stand out?
Key de-esser is a great starting point because it's very user-friendly.
Okay.
It has a simple interface with clear controls for frequency selection, sharpness, intensity, and amount.
Nice.
You can really fine-tune it to target those harsh S sounds with surgical precision.
Cool. Okay, before we move on to the fun stuff, delays and reverbs,
Yes.
I have a quick question. The article mentioned checking our Sugius for built-in de-essers.
Yeah.
Before we go downloading external ones, why is that?
It's always worth exploring your DW's built-in plugins before you start downloading external ones.
Okay.
You might be surprised at what's already included.
Right.
Oftentimes, the built-in plugins are more than capable of handling common tasks like de-essing. Plus, using built-in plugins can streamline your workflow and reduce CPU load.
That's a great reminder. Okay, I'm excited to move on to the effects that can really add space and dimension to vocals.
Yeah.
Wideners, delays, and reverbs.
Yeah. These are the tools that can, like, transport vocals from a sterile studio environment
Yeah.
to, like, a vast concert hall,
Yeah.
the cozy jazz club,
Right.
or even an otherworldly soundscape.
Let's start with wideners.
Sure.
What exactly do they do? I imagine it's about making vocals sound, wider,
Yeah.
but how does that actually work?
It's all about creating the illusion of space.
Okay.
A vocal widener manipulates the stereo image of the vocals,
Right.
making them sound less mono
Right.
and more expansive. It can add a sense of depth and dimension,
Gotcha.
making the vocals sound more impressive and engaging.
The article highlights Acon Digital Multiply and Isotope Vocal Doubler
Yes.
as good free options.
Yes.
What are their strengths?
So Acon Digital Multiply is a chorus plugin
Okay.
that can create a very lush, swirling stereo effect
Wow.
with up to 6 voices.
Okay.
It's great for adding a sense of movement and width to vocals without sounding artificial.
An Isotope Vocal Doubler.
Yes.
That name sounds intriguing.
It's a really clever plugin that simulates the effect of double tracking vocals.
Oh, okay.
Double tracking is a classic recording technique
Yeah.
where a vocalist sings the same part twice,
Okay.
and the 2 takes are blended together.
Right.
It creates a thicker, more powerful sound.
So this plugin basically saves you the time and effort of recording multiple takes.
Exactly. Isotope Vocal Doubler analyzes the original vocal, and it creates a second, slightly delayed and detuned version,
Gotcha.
mimicking the effect of double tracking. It's a fantastic way to add fullness and realism to vocals without needing to record multiple takes.
I'm starting to see why you said that many free plugins are just as powerful as their paid counterparts.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to one of my favorite effects. Delay. I love how delays can add space, rhythm, and just a touch of magic to vocals.
Delays are sonic chameleons.
Okay.
They can be subtle and almost invisible, adding warmth and depth, or they can be bold and upfront, creating rhythmic patterns and swirling echoes.
The article recommends 2 very different delay plugins, Valhalla DSP for Gecko and Taldub 2. What are their unique flavors?
Valhalla DSP Freak Echo is a versatile plugin that can create everything from pristine digital delays to, like, experimental lo-fi sounds.
Okay.
You can manipulate the frequency content of the delays, creating unique textures and soundscapes.
Yeah.
Perfect for sound design and pushing creative boundaries.
And Taldub 2. I'm intrigued by its vintage dub reggae inspiration.
KL Dub 2 is a gem for those seeking warm, analog-style delays.
Yeah.
It's inspired by the classic delay units used in, dub reggae.
Yeah.
Known for their gritty, characterful sound and their ability to create, swirling psychedelic effects.
So we've got a plugin that's versatile and experimental.
Yeah.
And another that's steeped in, vintage charm.
Exactly.
Before we move on to reverbs,
Yep.
any tips for using delays effectively?
Well, one of the most important things is to consider the tempo of the song.
Okay.
Syncing the delay time to the tempo
yeah.
can create a rhythmic effect that complements the music. You can also experiment with feedback, which controls how many times the delay repeats to create everything from, like, subtle echoes
Right.
to dense cascading soundscapes.
It's like creating a sonic dance
Yes.
between the vocals and the delays. And finally, we arrive at reverbs. Those sonic spaces that can make vocals sound like they're being sung in a cathedral, a concert hall, or a small, intimate room.
Yes.
I'm always fascinated by how reverbs can create such a strong sense of place.
Reverbs are essential for creating a sense of realism and placing vocals in a specific environment.
Okay.
They can add depth, warmth, and a sense of spaciousness.
The article recommends 3 free reverb plugins, Dragonfly Reverbs, Oral River, and Tilo Reverb 2. What sets them apart?
Dragonfly Reverbs offers a suite of different reverb algorithms,
Right.
covering a range of styles from, like, small rooms
Okay.
to large halls. They're known for their smooth, high-quality sound.
And Oral River, what are its strengths?
Oral River is a great all-around reverb, known for its efficiency and low CPU usage.
Nice.
It's a fantastic option for those who want great sound without taxing their computer's resources.
And finally, Tilo Reverb 2. What's special about this one?
Tilo Reverb 2 excels at creating those dreamy, ethereal reverbs that are perfect for ambient music, ballads, or any genre where you want to add a touch of, otherworldly magic.
Wow.
It's capable of producing lush, enveloping soundscapes
Nice.
that can transport the listener to another dimension.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part
Yeah?
of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From tuning and compression to saturation, de-essing, widening, delays, and reverbs.
It's pretty amazing.
It's incredible how many free tools are available
Right.
to enhance and transform vocals.
It's a testament to the ingenuity and generosity of the audio plugin development community, really.
Oh, right.
These tools can empower musicians of all levels
Mm-hmm.
to achieve professional-sounding results without breaking the bank.
Exactly. And we've only just scratched the surface. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve deeper into some specific plugins and explore some advanced techniques for using them.
Excited.
So stay tuned for more vocal magic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I'm excited to delve a little deeper into some of the specific plugins we touched on earlier.
Me too. There were so many intriguing options. We
Yeah.
were just talking about reverbs, those plugins that can transport vocals to different sonic spaces. Should we start there?
Absolutely. Dragonfly Reverbs is a fantastic free suite that we mentioned, offering a range of algorithms from intimate rooms to vast halls.
Yeah.
I found it to be incredibly versatile for creating a sense of realism and depth
Yeah.
in vocal recordings. What impressed you about it?
I loved the smoothness and sophistication of the sound. It didn't have that artificial metallic quality that some free reverbs can have. It felt very natural and polished.
I agree. The developers have clearly paid attention to detail,
Yeah.
capturing the nuances of different acoustic spaces. It's a testament to how far free plugins have come in terms of quality. Now, if you're looking for a reverb that's specifically designed for creating those larger-than-life, dreamy vocal sounds, TL Reverb 2 is a fantastic option.
That's the one that was described as enveloping, right?
Yes.
I can see how that would be perfect for like those epic ballads or ethereal vocal tracks.
Exactly. It's capable of creating these lush, expansive soundscapes that can really draw the listener in. Think of those like iconic vocal moments in songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, or imagine like TL Reverb 2 could help you create similar vibes. Do you ever find yourself reaching for a specific reverb
Oh, yeah.
when you're working on a particular genre?
Oh, absolutely. If I'm working on a folk track, for example, I might go for a smaller room reverb to create a sense of intimacy. But if it's like an EDM track, I might use a large hall reverb to add a sense of grandeur and scale. The choice of reverb can really shape the emotional impact of a vocal performance.
That's a great point. Matching the reverb to the genre and the overall vibe of the song is crucial. It's like choosing the right acoustic space for a live performance.
Speaking of shaping the sound, let's talk about those legendary compressors we mentioned, Analog Obsession's Fetish and LALA.
Yes.
What makes these plugins so special, aside from the fact that they emulate classic hardware?
What's remarkable is how accurately they capture
the
sonic characteristics of the original units.
Okay.
You know, the Fetish, modeled after the 1176, is known for its fast attack and punchy sound. It's incredible for taming those aggressive peaks in a vocal performance and adding a sense of energy and presence. What are your initial impressions of it?
I was blown away by how much punch it could add without squashing the life out of the vocals.
Totally.
It felt like it was adding energy and excitement, almost like the vocals were leaping out of the speakers.
That's the magic of the 1176.
Yeah.
It can make vocals sound bold and assertive without sacrificing their natural dynamics.
Right.
Now, the LA, on the other hand, is more about subtle warmth and smoothing. It's modeled after the LA2A, which is famous for its gentle, transparent compression.
I remember the article mentioned using these two compressors together in series. I'm curious about this technique. Why would you combine these two seemingly different compressors?
It's all about getting the best of both worlds.
Okay.
The Fetish can handle those initial transients and add a bit of bite.
Okay.
While the LA can follow up and smooth out the overall dynamics, adding that final touch of warmth and glue. It's a classic combination that's used by countless professional mixers.
So it's almost like a tag team approach to compression, each plugin contributing its unique strengths.
Exactly.
To achieve that polished and professional sound.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on, I have to ask about saturation. I'm still wrapping my head around the idea of adding distortion to vocals.
It's a technique that when used subtly, can add a lot of character and depth to a vocal track.
Gotcha.
Think of it like adding a touch of overdrive to a guitar. It's not about making it sound distorted in a negative way, but rather adding harmonics and overtones that enrich the sound and help it cut through a mix. What are your thoughts on the Klanghelm IVGI plugin?
I was impressed by its versatility.
Cool.
It could add subtle warmth, a bit of grit, or even more aggressive distortion if needed.
Right.
And the fact that it's a free version
it's amazing.
of a paid plugin is amazing.
Klanghelm is known for their high-quality plugins, and IVGI is no exception. It's a great tool for exploring the nuances of saturation and finding the right flavor for your vocals. The soft tube saturation knob is another fantastic free option, especially for those who prefer simplicity.
It's just,
One knob, endless sonic possibilities.
The article had a great tip about applying saturation to a vocal bus. Could you remind us what a bus is and why this technique is so effective?
A bus, or submix, allows you to group multiple tracks together and process them as one. So by applying saturation to a vocal bus, you can subtly enhance the overall sound of the vocals without overdoing it on individual tracks. It's a great way to add a cohesive warmth and presence to the entire vocal performance.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now let's tackle those pesky S sounds with de-essers. Sibilants can be a real pain in the studio. And I'm always grateful for tools that can tame it without making the vocals sound dull.
De-essers are essential in any vocal producer's toolkit.
For sure.
They surgically target those harsh frequencies without affecting the rest of the vocal performance. And luckily, there are some great free options out there. What did you think of Tekivation TD-esser?
I found it to be incredibly user-friendly. Even for someone who's not like a de-essing expert. The controls were very straightforward. And it did a great job of smoothing out those harsh say sounds without making the vocals sound unnatural. But before we go downloading any external plugins, I remember the article reminded us to check our DWs for built-in de-essers. Why is that important?
DW developers are constantly adding new features and plugins, and you might be surprised at what's already included. Oftentimes, the built-in plugins are more than capable of handling common tasks like de-essing. Plus, using built-in plugins can streamline your workflow and reduce CPU load, which is always a good thing.
That's a fantastic reminder. Okay, let's move on to the effects that can really add space and dimension to vocals. Wideners, delays, and reverbs.
These are the tools that can transform a dry vocal recording into something truly magical.
They allow us to create sonic landscapes and add a sense of depth and movement that can really captivate the listener.
Totally. Wideners are a great starting point. They create the illusion of space, making vocals sound wider and more expansive in the stereo field.
The article mentioned Acon Digital Multiply and Isotope Vocal Doubler as two solid free options. What are their unique strengths?
So Acon Digital Multiply is a chorus plugin that can create a lush, swirling stereo effect with up to 6 voices. It's perfect for adding a sense of movement and width to vocals without making them sound artificial or overprocessed. What are your thoughts on it?
I was surprised by how subtle and natural it could sound, even with multiple voices engaged. It didn't feel like it was like doubling the vocals in a clunky way. It felt more like it was adding a subtle layer of shimmer and dimension.
That's the beauty of a well-designed chorus plugin. It can add depth and movement without sounding like, a blatant effect. Now, Isotope Vocal Doubler takes a different approach. It aims to simulate the classic recording technique of double-tracking vocals.
So it's like having a virtual backup singer who perfectly mimics the lead vocal.
Exactly. Double-tracking involves recording the same vocal part twice and blending the 2 takes together. It creates a thicker, more powerful sound. Isotope Vocal Doubler analyzes the original vocal and it creates a second, slightly delayed and detuned version, mimicking the effect of double tracking. Have you ever tried actual double tracking?
I'm in the studio, and it can be quite time-consuming and challenging to get right.
Yeah.
A plugin like Isotope Vocal Doubler
Yeah.
seems like a fantastic shortcut to achieving that classic sound
Totally.
without the hassle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to how far plug-in technology has come. We can now emulate complex recording techniques with a simple click of a mouse.
Yeah, speaking of sonic trickery,
Oh, yeah.
let's talk about delay.
Yes.
I love how delays can add a sense of space, rhythm, and even a touch of psychedelia to vocals. It's like having a sonic echo that dances around the lead vocal.
The delays are incredibly versatile tools.
Yeah.
They can be subtle and almost invisible, adding a touch of warmth and depth, or they can be bold and upfront, creating rhythmic patterns and swirling echoes. What impressed you about the Valhalla DSP Freak Echo plugin?
I loved the simplicity of the interface,
Yeah.
yet it felt incredibly powerful.
Right.
It could create everything from
Right.
pristine digital delays
Right.
to those grainy lo-fi sounds
Yeah.
that are so popular in certain genres.
It's a fantastic plugin
Yeah.
for sound design and experimentation. You can manipulate the frequency content of delays, creating unique textures and soundscapes.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking for that warm, analog-style delay sound,
Right.
TL Dub 2 is a gem.
That's the one inspired by vintage dub reggae, right?
Yes.
I can already hear those echoing vocals swirling around in my head.
It's perfect for recreating those classic dub reggae effects.
Yeah.
But it can also be used creatively
Okay.
in countless other genres.
Right.
Do you have any tips for using delays effectively?
One thing I've learned is to consider the tempo of the song.
Right.
Syncing the delay time to the tempo can create a rhythmic effect
Yes.
that complements the music. It's like the delays become
Yeah.
percussive elements in the track,
Right.
adding another layer of groove.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Syncing delays to the tempo
Yeah.
can make them feel more integrated
Right.
into the music
Yeah.
rather than sounding like an afterthought. And don't be afraid to experiment with feedback,
Right.
which controls how many times the delay repeats.
Yeah.
It can create everything from subtle echoes
Right.
to dense cascading soundscapes.
It's like creating a sonic spiral
Yes.
that draws the listener in.
Absolutely.
And finally, we arrive at reverbs, those sonic spaces
Yes.
that can make vocals sound like they're being sung in a cathedral, a concert hall,
Yeah.
or even a tiny bathroom. I'm always fascinated by how reverbs can create such a strong sense of place.
Reverbs are essential
Yeah.
for creating realism and placing vocals
Yeah.
in a specific environment. They can add depth, warmth,
Yeah.
and a sense of spaciousness
Right.
that can transform a dry vocal recording
Yeah.
into something truly immersive.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the Dragonfly Reverb Suite?
I was impressed by the range of algorithms it offered, from small rooms to large halls, plates, and chambers.
Yeah.
It felt like a complete toolkit for creating any type of reverb I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Dragonfly Reverbs is a fantastic free option,
Yeah.
especially for beginners who want to explore different reverb styles
Right.
without spending any money.
Right.
Oral River is another great free choice,
Okay.
known for its efficiency
Yeah.
and low CPU usage.
Mm.
It's perfect for those who want a great-sounding reverb
Yeah.
without taxing their computer's resources.
And then there's Tail Reverb too, which seemed to excel at those dreamy,
Yes.
ethereal reverbs.
Yeah.
I can imagine using it for ambient music, ballads, or anything that needs like a touch of otherworldly magic.
Tail Reverb 2 is a hidden gem.
Yeah.
It's capable of producing these lush, enveloping soundscapes
Right.
that can really transport the listener to another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect for adding a touch of magic and wonder
Yeah.
to vocals.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part
Yeah, we have.
of our deep dive. We've delved deeper into some specific reverbs, compressors, saturators, and de-essers. And it's amazing how much depth and variety there is within each category.
It's truly inspiring to see how many high-quality, free tools are available
Yeah.
to enhance and transform vocals. With a little experimentation and creativity, anyone can achieve professional-sounding results without breaking the bank.
Absolutely. And in the final part
Yes.
of our deep dive, we'll shift our focus to some techniques and creative approaches to using these plugins.
Absolutely.
We'll explore how to combine different effects,
Yes.
experiment with unconventional settings,
Yeah.
and unlock the full potential of these free vocal gems.
You're going to be fun.
So stay tuned for more sonic adventures.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring this incredible world of free vocal plugins, and I'm ready to get even more hands-on with these tools.
Me too. We've talked about, the individual plugins,
Right.
but now let's dive into some techniques and creative approaches that can really elevate your vocal production.
Perfect. I'm all ears. Where should we start?
Let's revisit delays, those sonic echoes. They can
Okay.
add so much space, rhythm, and texture to vocals.
One technique I love is using multiple delays in series,
Okay.
each with different settings. Have you ever experimented with this approach?
I have, and it can create some really interesting effects.
Yeah.
I remember once using a short rhythmic delay with a lot of feedback,
Okay.
followed by a longer, more ambient delay with less feedback. It created this swirling, hypnotic texture that sounded amazing on the vocals.
Exactly. By combining delays with different characteristics,
Yeah.
you can create depth, movement, and complexity
Right.
that would be impossible to achieve with just one delay. You can also experiment with panning the delays to different positions
Okay.
in the stereo field.
So instead of having both delays centered,
Right.
you could pan one slightly to the left and the other slightly to the right.
Precisely. This creates a wider, more spacious sound,
Okay.
and it can also help to prevent the delays from clashing with the main vocal.
Gotcha.
Another trick is to automate
Uh-huh.
the delay parameters,
Okay.
like the delay time or
Yeah,
feedback,
right.
to create dynamic and evolving effects.
Automation can really bring a track to life. You could, for example, automate the feedback
Yeah.
of a delay to create a buildup,
Yes.
gradually increasing the intensity until it explodes into a wash of echoes.
That's a great example.
Right.
Automation allows you to add movement and variation,
Right.
preventing the delays from becoming static and predictable.
Right.
It's like having a virtual delay assistant
Okay.
constantly tweaking the knobs for you.
That's awesome.
Now let's move on to another creative effect. Reverb.
Reverb is like that secret ingredient
Yeah.
that adds depth, warmth, and a sense of place to vocals.
Totally.
We talked about matching the reverb to the genre and the vibe of the song,
Right.
but what are some less conventional ways to use reverb?
One technique I love is using reverb as an instrument in itself.
Ooh, okay.
So instead of just adding reverb
Yeah.
to the vocals,
Okay.
you can send a separate signal,
Uh-huh.
like a synth pad
Okay.
or a drum loop, to a reverb plugin. This creates a wash of ambient sound
Right.
that can add a unique texture and atmosphere to a track.
So the reverb becomes almost like a background instrument,
Yes.
adding like a subtle layer of sonic texture.
Exactly. It's a great way to create a sense of depth and space without cluttering the mix
Yeah.
with additional instruments.
Hmm.
You can also experiment with pre-delay, which is the amount of time
Okay.
before the reverb kicks in. A longer pre-delay can create a sense of distance and separation,
Uh-huh.
while a shorter pre-delay
Okay.
creates a more intimate sound.
That's interesting. I've never really experimented with pre-delay before, but I can see how it could dramatically affect the
Yeah,
character of a reverb.
it's a subtle
Yeah.
but powerful
Right.
parameter
Mm-hmm.
that can make a big difference.
Okay.
Now let's talk about a plugin category
Okay.
that often gets overlooked
Right.
when it comes to creative effects.
Right.
Vocal tuning plugins.
I tend to think of tuning plugins as tools for fixing, like pitch problems.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear how they can be used creatively.
While tuning plugins are primarily used for pitch correction,
Yeah.
they can also be used to create unique vocal effects.
Okay.
For example, you can use a plugin like Auburn Sounds Graylon
Okay.
to create robotic vocal sounds,
Oh, wow.
or to shift the formants of the vocals,
Okay.
making them sound higher or lower without changing the pitch. Have you ever experimented with formant shifting?
I've played around with it a bit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much it can alter the character of a vocal.
Right.
You can make a male vocal sound like a female vocal or vice versa.
Yeah.
Or even create those otherworldly chipmunk-like voices.
It's a powerful tool for sound design and experimentation.
Yeah.
You can also use tuning plugins to create harmonies. By duplicating the vocal track
Okay.
and applying slight pitch shifts,
Right.
you can create instant harmonies without needing to record multiple takes.
So instead of relying on a backing vocalist, you could use a tuning plugin to create your own virtual choir.
Exactly. It's a great way to add depth and richness
Wow.
to vocal arrangements.
Cool.
Now, let's not forget about those essential
Right.
corrective plugins,
Yeah.
EQ,
Right.
compression, and de-essing.
Yeah.
While they might not seem as exciting as
Right.
delays and reverbs,
Right.
they play a crucial role
Yeah.
in shaping the overall sound of the vocal.
Absolutely. These are like the foundational tools that ensure the vocals are clear, balanced, and polished
Right.
before we start adding any creative effects.
Think of them as like the foundation of a house.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
need a strong foundation before you can start decorating and adding those fancy flourishes.
That's a perfect analogy. So any tips for using these corrective plugins effectively?
When it comes to EQ,
Yeah.
I always recommend starting with subtractive EQ
Okay.
before you start boosting frequencies.
Gotcha.
This means identifying and removing any problem frequencies
Uh-huh.
that are muddying up the sound
Okay.
before you start adding brightness or warmth.
So it's about cleaning up the sound before you start shaping it.
Exactly. Once you've removed any unwanted frequencies,
Right.
you can then start boosting specific ranges
Mm-hmm.
to add clarity, presence, or warmth.
Hmm.
With compression,
Yeah.
it's important to find the right balance
Okay.
between controlling the dynamics
Mm-hmm.
and preserving the natural energy of the performance.
Right.
You don't want to squash the life out of the vocals.
It's about finding that sweet spot
Yes.
where the compression enhances the vocals without making them sound flat or lifeless.
Exactly. And finally, with de-essing,
Yeah.
it's crucial to use a light touch.
Okay.
You want to smooth out those harsh S sounds
Right.
without making the vocals sound dull or lispy.
So it's about striking a balance between clarity
Yeah.
and naturalness. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
From exploring individual plugins to discussing creative techniques and approaches.
Right.
It's clear that the world of free vocal plugins is vast and incredibly empowering.
It's amazing how much you can achieve
Right.
with these free tools.
Yeah.
With a little experimentation and creativity, anyone can transform their vocals
Yeah.
and take their productions to the next level.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that you don't need expensive plugins
Right.
or fancy studios to create incredible music. The tools are readily available,
Yeah.
and the only limit is your imagination.
So, to our listeners, I encourage you to explore these plugins, experiment fearlessly, and most importantly,